This man is Byron Jones. He was an NFL prospect in 2015, and he was an insane athlete, unofficially breaking the world record with a 12-foot 3-inch standing long jump. He was then selected in the first round of the NFL draft by the Dallas Cowboys, where he played for 5 years, before signing with the Miami Dolphins in 2020 to the tune of $82 million for 5 years, making him the highest paid cornerback in the league. And from then on, he had a long and rewarding career in the NFL. Except he didn't. After dealing with a quad and Achilles injury, which he played on for the entire 2021 season, starting 16 games, Byron had Achilles surgery and missed the whole 2022 season due to his injury. He later made a post saying that he could no longer run or jump and warned future players against the NFL's medical practices, saying no amount of success or wealth is worth chronic pain or disabilities. Football, America's favorite pastime. Everybody likes to watch the crazy plays, the big hits. The Super Bowl averages 115 million viewers, but when the game's over, you simply turn your TV off, and the players are going in and giving it their all, day after day, week after week, year after year. Football has always been a very physical sport. Injuries and pain come with the territory, but opioids became the NFL's solution for players' pain, dating back to Quaaludes in the 60s, Oxy in the 70s, Percocet in the 80s, and in the mid-90s up to today, Toradol. Only 1% of players make it into the NFL. Every game, practice, and rep is competitive, with thousands of others trying to take your spot. The added pressure comes from the teams that demand a high performance from the players, and even if they're injured, the team wants them to take painkillers and play regardless. For career-ending injuries, players are offered an injury settlement worth a few $1,000s. Some don't have a choice but to take it and end up left out to dry.
And they've, tried to strong-arm me into an injury settlement, taking a few $1,000s, when I have a contract that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I have medical bills. For them to say that you're not disabled at all, they cut you from the team because you're injured, and then turn around and say, but you're not so injured that you deserve any compensation for getting hurt while doing your job.
So with the threat of having nothing if they're too injured to play, or losing the life of wealth, fame, and doing what they love, playing football, what do players do to deal with the pain? That's where Toradol comes in. It's an anti-inflammatory injection that players would line up to get before games to dull the pain. They would also take different opioids, which could end in addiction, but all the players wanted was to play the game.
And I do think it's needed at times, but I do think that there's been some teams and some players that's overdone it. I'm one of those players. Now we're talking about a lifetime battle with addiction, depression, suicide. It can get really bad. Yeah. The week before, I hurt my ankle, high ankle sprain. They said I was supposed to be out maybe 4 to 6 weeks, right? So now I have 7 days to try to find a way.
Wow.
So the team's like, hey, we're just gonna rule you out. Don't practice, don't do that. I was like, listen, I probably won't be able to practice, but don't make a decision until after warm-ups on Sunday, on game day. What I did before I went out to that warm-up, I took like 4 pain pills, 2 Toradols.
Oh my God.
Like I was high as hell on the field because I really wanted to play.
Do they tell you side effects and all that before they give you the shot?
Man, I don't even know. I don't even think so.
I ain't thinking about that.
Right.
You go out there to get this bread, make these plays, all that.
Right.
Nobody thinking about none of that shit. Yes, we know. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Right.
Still gonna do it.
I knew what I was doing. I knew that I didn't necessarily need it, but I sure liked the way it felt. I took 15 Vicodin and ES at one time, and they're like, a month's prescriptions was, 30 pills or something, and I was going through that in 2 days.
Not all players just go along with the NFL's practices, though. There are players who have come out criticizing the league when it comes to pain relief and their lack of consideration for the well-being of the players. Arguments for CBD and even marijuana have been brought up as possible substitutes for opioids, but the NFL has held a firm stance against these options. Former Philadelphia Eagles player Chris Maragos was awarded $43.5 million in a medical malpractice lawsuit after a meniscus tear was neglected in order for him to continue to play. Hall of Fame tight end Calvin Johnson, or Megatron, has been very outspoken on his injuries and personal road to dealing with them. He's an advocate for marijuana use in lieu of opioids, and even called out major sports during his Hall of Fame speech.
To the NFL, college football, and all major sports, including the Olympics, it's also time we recognize the potential of phytomedicines, plant medicines, to aid in improving the mental health and quality of life for so many.
The NFL has since cracked down on overprescribing opioids to players, and they now heavily regulate their team's medical practices. But the retired players who are still struggling have not had any support. A class action lawsuit in 2014 was filed against the NFL, accusing them of failing to regulate the use of painkillers, affecting thousands of players over a 35-year period in 23 states. A federal judge said that variations in how the 32 teams administered opioids and drugs, changes in practices over time, and the NFL's inconsistent record-keeping would become a sprawling train wreck. The judge also said that negligence, product liability, and medical monitoring laws varied within the 23 states implicated in the case. The case was then thrown out. Former players are still fighting injuries and pain from their time in the NFL, but the abuse of opioids isn't only for pain. On February 17, 2011, two-time Super Bowl champion Dave Dorson took his own life after suffering from memory loss, depression, and mood swings, direct symptoms of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. CTE is the degeneration of the brain as a result of repeated head injuries. Dorson left behind a note to his family saying to give his brain to the NFL's brain bank. This kicked off a fury of studies and lit the spark for research of CTE, which brings us to the understanding we have of it today. A 2023 study from the Boston University CTE Center found that out of 376 autopsies of deceased NFL players, 345 were confirmed to have suffered from CTE. In 2013, the NFL reached a settlement of $765 million with former players over head injuries. But still, many players fell into a pit of opioid addiction to suppress their symptoms of CTE. Tragic stories like that of Javon Belcher in 2012, who killed his girlfriend and then himself after extensive abuse of opioids and alcohol, whose autopsy was found to have signs of CTE from multiple brain injuries. Another story is that of Keith McCants. He was drafted number 4 overall in the 1990 NFL Draft, signing a 5-year, $7.4 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He began his career with a bad knee. He further destroyed his body playing in the NFL, taking painkillers distributed to him by the team. Tore at all shots before the game, and after the game they got Percocets and Tylox, Lortabs, cortisone shots, and morphine. He was taking 183 pills a week, which affected and developed his split personality and violent tendencies, which ripped his personal life apart. He said that the team would turn him into a monster for the field, but he would take that monster home with him. When he was released from the NFL, he had nothing and ended up living on the street. He was arrested several times for possession of narcotics, which he was still addicted to in order to suppress his pain. While he was in rehab, Keith became an advocate for former players who suffered from addiction.
They turn you into a monster on the field, and you take that monster home with you. And you hurt the people around you that love you. And you don't know why you do it. And they don't help you. They don't give you an answer. They're the biggest lawbreakers in the world, and they get away with it. And people root for these people every day, every week, all season long, and not knowing the effects that it have on that individual, or his family, or his loved one, or his wife, or his children. And then when we commit suicide, how many times I stuck a gun in my mouth? How many times I tried to OD? How many times I just hung myself? How many times I lose the will to live? Do anybody care? Well, I choose to live. And I choose to spread the message. Any way, shape, or form I can do it.
Keith McCants succumbed to his addiction and died of an overdose on September 2nd, 2021. In his memory, I'll leave you with the words of Megatron.
No matter how much I dominated, as the legends here know, the pain never left. The pain was so severe that I would take whatever I could just to manage the pain to be able to play. The pain began to take a toll on my body and my quality of life. My journey through the pain began to reshape my view of the world. It gave me more empathy and understanding for those who suffer and deal with pain on a daily basis. It also motivated me to be someone who's focused on making a change on the issue. There are so many people living in our world with pain right now, and I want to speak to you for a moment. I want you to know that I see you, and you matter, and to fight and to do your best to make it through and never give in to the pain.